I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're journeying through the serene paths of Mount St. Mary in Queens, New York, with a terrific author. His name is Vincent Tomeo, and it is an amazing book that he has penned. It is called My Cemetery Friends, A Garden of Encounters at Mount St. Mary's in Queens, New York. This book transcends the ordinary, transforming a walk through a cemetery into a profound exploration and echoes of the past. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here once again on Spotlight. We thank our team at Bookside Press for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his wonderful book. The links are below this interview. Vincent, great to see you here today, my friend.
Thank you. Same here.
Describe for the folks at home just how large Mount St. Mary's Cemetery is.
I think it's about 3.5 miles.
Okay.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's just an amazing, it's like gravestone after gravestone. Some are quite elaborate. When did you start doing your walks in the cemetery there?
During the pandemic, I didn't want to stay home and be cooped in. And I said, well, the cemetery in my neighborhood is a garden and the dead aren't going to kill me. So I started walking there and took off my mask and discovered the trees, the different trees and the birds and the plants. And I said, they probably did some landscaping way back when. And the results were in full bloom one autumn. And from that point on, I've been walking since the pandemic almost every day.
It's amazing what could be a place of like darkness and death. Once you get into it, sometimes they're beautiful. It's gardens of stone and green grass and trees and blue sky. I mean, in Queens, New York, we have building upon building upon building. It's great to get to a spot where there's some open space where you can breathe, right?
Definitely. I live in Flushing, Queens, and it's so crowded. It's like a wave of people on the streets that bump into you, and you got to walk. You got to weave yourself through
You
the massive
squeeze through
crowd.
whatever spot you can
Exactly, like
find,
a
right?
wave. And I said, I want to go for a walk, and I can't enjoy walking in my neighborhood because it's too crowded. So I decided to go to the cemetery because it's not far. So I would drive over there, park my car, and just walk.
Yeah.
And in fact, I made a couple of friends walking through the cemetery. Father Zanin became a friend of mine for over 35 years. In my book, I tell how I met him in my cemetery friends. He was burying someone and there was nobody there. So I stopped and said a prayer. And he said to me, are you family? I said, no, I didn't even know the person, but nobody should be buried all alone.
Yeah.
So he said to me, what brings you here? I said, well, my mom's buried here and I come here almost every day to walk. So he says to me, let me walk with you to your mother's grave and bless her. So I walked with him to my mom's grave in the rain. And on my mother's grave, he blessed her. And that was the beginning of a long friendship.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yes.
It's like Humphrey Bogart said in Casablanca, this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
That's right.
If he's willing to take a walk with you in the rain to your mother's gravesite and to give her a blessing and you a blessing, it's quite a wonderful and inspiring thing. Tell us a little bit about your book. What will folks find between the covers of this wonderful book?
Well, a cemetery can be a garden. And this garden is a refuge to find peace and solace in a very heavily populated urban area. I just find solace and peace walking through the cemetery. It's a garden to me, and I don't look at it as a cemetery. And if I wanted to, I could probably learn history because each gravestone tells a story.
Yeah.
And they are our ancestors.
Yeah.
They are our past. And there go I, but for the grace of God, I'm not ready to go yet. But uh,
Yeah.
this,
But you're right. Everybody in there has a story. Everyone in there has a life that they've led, has loved ones they left behind, has a legacy of perhaps family members that precede them. So it is quite a adventure in a way, walking through a cemetery. When did you first say to yourself, "Hey, I'm going to write about this. I'm going to write about my walks through the cemetery"?
well, as a writer, uh, um, I don't want to blow my own horn, but I have like 1,145 pieces of literature published.
Wow.
And my cemetery friends, one day was walking through the cemetery and it was just a lovely day and the birds were chirping. It was just very nice. So I sat down and I said, let me write about this wonderful place.
Hmm.
Let people know, give it a place in history. Um, and so I did. I researched the history. I found out that it was established by a group of nuns in 1853 and blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
But there was a lot of interesting things that I found out about the cemetery. And I was also inspired by the chaplain of the cemetery, Father Zanin. One,
Hmm.
because Father Zanin was not only a priest, he had served in World War II and the Korean War. So he served God and nation as a soldier.
Hmm.
And I found that very, very interesting. And I learned a lot from him. I learned that he loved Korean food, and he even spoke a little Korean. And a couple of times we went for Korean food. Um,
Nice.
he liked kimchi and bulgogi and all these different Korean dishes. So we became friends, and I knew him over 35 years. So that
Amazing.
was one friendship that I met or made walking through the cemetery, and that's why I call uh, St. Mary's,
Yeah.
my cemetery friends. I
Yeah.
also met there was a man who was playing bagpipes on stones, different graves, and I couldn't understand why, and it was startled me. So I one day I just gingerly walked up to him and waited when he was finished, and I asked him. I said, "I have to ask you. I'm very curious." And he said, "Well, I'm honoring the veterans and firemen and policemen and people who died in service.
Hmm.
And I do that by playing the bagpipes on the grave. And that's why I'm on a different grave every day." Or
Yeah.
so I said, "Well, it's wonderful. The music is just it's it's like a hallelujah moment just
Yeah.
hearing the
It's
the
kind of
bagpipe."
inspiring. It's kind of haunting. It's that when you hear the
Yes,
bagpipes play, it's amazing
that's
sound. Yeah.
exactly it. Yes.
Yeah.
And so that was one encounter. Uh, I also there's a few people that go jogging through or walk through the cemetery.
Hmm.
So I hooked up with them, and they said, "Well, what are you doing here?" I said, "Well, the same thing you are.
Yeah.
I'm going for a walk." And so so that's it's interesting who you could meet in a cemetery.
Yeah.
Uh, so the and I even have friends. I befriended a fox.
Mm.
Actually, there's three of them now. One time I was in the cemetery and I see a fox. So I said, "Oh, I have some food home. I never throw food out. I never like to waste. I only uh, make enough for what I could eat. So what was left over, I brought to the cemetery. And so this fox would wait for me almost every day, because
Mm.
I would go every day. And it got to the point when I would be walking, he would be walking parallel to me,
Mm.
almost like he was following me, his way of saying thank you.
Yeah. It's
So
amazing. It's
peculiar.
amazing what you can see, who you can meet, and what you can experience if you
Yes,
put yourself out there to be
yes.
open to it, right?
I wrote my book, My Cemetery Friends, in the cemetery under a tree on my
Mm.
mother's grave.
Amazing. I mean, that's a
And
beautiful tribute to her.
yes,
Yeah.
and I wrote, I think, one of the first poems in the book is to my mother.
Do you have the book handy? Do you want to
Yeah,
share that with
I
us?
do. Hold on.
It is an amazing book that Vincent has written. It's called My Cemetery Friends, A Garden of Encounters at Mount St. Mary, Queens. And like we've been discussing, it's just amazing that the people you can meet, the experiences you can have if you're open to it. And he's met everyone from a Roman Catholic priest who befriended him to a family of foxes that look forward to his journey through the gravestones every day. And he wrote this book, sitting under a tree by his mother's graveside. And it's quite a wonderful tribute to her. And he's going to read to us a poem that he wrote about her in that book.
Yes, but before I do that, I would like to say this. I'd like to read the preface to my book.
Sure.
To all cemetery workers, your labor is an act of magnanimity because you honor the dead. In so doing, you pay homage to our ancestors and at the same time preserve history for future generations. Respectfully, Vincent J. Tomeo.
Very nice. Those folks don't get a lot of recognitions, and they keep the cemeteries as beautiful as golf courses. So that's wonderful.
That's right. That's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
yes. Okay. This actually happened over the fence. Mama, every day for 5 years, I visited your grave. One Christmas day, it was late. I was late. The cemetery gates were locked. Climbed a bronze fence. Left my tracks in the snow.
Hmm.
And I really did that.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And then I wrote a poem about, if I could read this one,
Sure.
Mama's slippers. Mama's slippers. Mama's fuzzy slippers were sinking like Salvador Dali's painting, The Persistence of Memory. Her time is wrapped, warped, hanging down, bent over, exhausted, seems to hug, clasp, embrace the back of her favorite chair. Mama's fuzzy slippers are light, smoothly worn, spongy, soft, squeezable, shaped like a little Native American boat, yellow, brown, interwoven wool. A playful wool ball crowned the instep of Mama's slippers. Mama's slippers could fit the feet of a ballerina in an interlude from an opera. Out of the blue, Mama would say, when I die, make sure my feet are warm. I would pretend not to listen. Mama died, realized, listened. I gave the funeral director Mama's slippers. I thought no more of it. Mama buried. Slippers returned. Whenever I hold Mama's slippers, my heart is filled with warm, sweet joy. I remember the smell of her perfume.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful tribute to your mother. Our mothers are so important to us. I miss my mother every day. It's wonderful that you take the time to go visit your mother's gravesite. And I love the image of you climbing that big brass gate and jumping into the snow and walking to see your mother because you were late on Christmas Day. It's wonderful. Wonderful work, Vincent.
I could have been arrested, but the security guard saw me and he ignored it.
Good.
He knows me.
That means he has a good heart. It means he has a good
Yes.
heart because you had the best intentions in the world. This
Yes,
is
and
an
I guess he
amazing
knew
book,
that.
folks. It is
So
called My Cemetery Friends, A Garden of Encounters at Mount St. Mary in Queens, New York. It's a great book. It'll remind you of all of the experiences you can have, all of the people you can meet, all of the relationships you can forge, and all of the things you can do in the most unlikely of places if you were just open to it. Vincent is a prolific writer, and this is one of his works, and we're proud to have him as a guest once again on the Spotlight Network. Vincent, thank you so much for joining us.
thank you, and thank our audience. And I also would like to thank Bookside Press, Senior Literary Consultant Jeremy Flynn, for his advice, support, and direction.
Absolutely. It's a good team there at Bookside Press, so thanks for pointing that out. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.